Good morning. Fernando, ready? Dr. Campos? No, he's coming. Good to go? Good morning, and welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Public Works for Wednesday, August 21st, 2019.
Commissioner Garcia, Cabello, and Caloza are present. Vice President Cabello, we do have a quorum. May we start with Bureau introductions, please, starting with Bureau of Contract Administration.
Good morning, Steffi Wells, Bureau of Contract Administration.
Good morning, Chimen Gong for the Bureau of Street Services.
Good morning, Asad Al-Najjar, Bureau of Street Lighting.
Good morning, Ali Pusti, Bureau of Sanitation.
Good morning, Elisa Blake, Bureau of Engineering. Good morning, Lori Rittenberg, City Attorney.
Fernando Campos, Executive Officer. Vice President Cabello, we do not have any speaker cards under general public comment. We also do not have any commentary under the Neighborhood Council comment section. We did receive one speaker card on item number 3 for today's agenda.
Okay, we'll hold item number 3 until President James gets in. And hearing no speaker cards and general public comment or the Neighborhood Council commentary, we'll close both of those items as well. That takes us to our first item of business, approval of the minutes for the meetings of Friday, July 19th, 2019, and Monday, July 22nd, 2019. Is there a second to my motion to approve both meeting minutes? And that was seconded by Commissioner Garcia. Without objections, those minutes are approved. We'll also be removing item number 2, a tree removal at 9503 North Endora Place in Council District 12. It will be withdrawn from the agenda without objection. And with that, I ask that my colleagues here give me a brief indulgence while I introduce a very special delegation from Switzerland. Today we have with us the delegation from the Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation to discuss the Blue Peace Initiative, a project focused on water as an entry point to develop local economic development in undercapitalized cities, shall we say. We're looking to start a partnership with them, and it's a project that's an outcome of the Mayor's Migration Council, which was launched in 2018 of December at the UN Global Compact on Migration. Mayor Garcetti is part of the founding membership, and the initiative is a partnership between the Open Society Foundations, the Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation, and C40. So please, let's give them a warm round of applause. I'm going to attempt to call everyone out, and forgive me if I get your names, if I mispronounce your names wrong, but leading the delegation is Ambassador Pio Van Noopst. I apologize for that. We also have Isabella Pagodo, Rukan Manas, and Sibyl Chevalier Janada. I hope I did okay. And so with that, we're going to take a brief recess so that we can go ahead and take pictures with them over here. So if my colleagues can join me over here in the back. Thank you. Thank you all for indulging me in that brief introduction. So this takes us to our first item on the agenda, item 1 in Council District 11. Bids will be received at 10 a.m. for the following public works project: Hyperion Water Reclamation Plant Service, Water Facility Improvements, Capital Improvements. Estimated value $3,287,000. Dr. Campos.
Thank you, Vice President Cabello. Fernando Campos, Executive Officer. We will be opening up the bids today. Again, this is for the Hyperion Water Reclamation Plant Service Water Facility Improvement Capital Improvement Project. This is a rebid in Council District 11. The city has estimated this project to be at $3,287,000 even. In total, we did receive 9 bids. We will begin to open up the bids now. The first bid received is from Murray Plumbing and Heating Corporation, doing business as Murray Company, for a total bid amount of $3,260,563 even. That's $3,260,563 from Murray Plumbing and Heating Corporation, doing business as Murray Company. The second bid received is from Environmental Construction Incorporation for a total bid amount of $2,964,968 even. That's $2,964,968 from Environmental Construction Incorporated. The next bid is from Ford EC Incorporated for a total bid amount of $3,069,300 even. That's $3,069,300 from Ford EC Incorporated. For the record, line item number 6 and also line item number 7 has been stricken out by the contractor, and both lines have been initialed. The fourth bid received is from Metro Builders and Engineers Group Limited for a total bid amount of $2,906,948 even. That's $2,906,948 from Metro Builders and Engineers Group Limited. The next bid is from Green Building Corporation for a total bid amount of $3,997,000 even. That's $3,997,000 from Green Building Corporation. The next bid is from Kiewit Infrastructure West Company for a total bid amount of $2,692,000 even. That's $2,692,000 from Kiewit Infrastructure West Company. The seventh bid received is from Myers & Sons Construction, LLC, for a total bid amount of $4,122,000 even. That's $4,122,000 from Myers & Sons Construction, LC. The next bid is from United Riggers and Erectors, Incorporated, for a total bid amount of $9,946,048 even. That's $3,946,048 from United Riggers and Erectors Incorporated. The ninth and final bid received for this project is from Shimmick, SHIMMICK, Construction Company Incorporated, for a total bid amount of $2,960,000 even. That's $2,960,000 from Shimmick Construction Company Incorporated. Vice President Cabello, that concludes the bid openings for today's agenda.
Thank you, Dr. Campos. Is there a second to my motion to have this bid open, received, and declared forthwith? Seconded by Commissioners Coloza and Davis. Without objection, those bids are considered open, received, and declared sent forthwith. Thank you. This takes us to our next item on the agenda. We'll go to item number 4 in Council District 15, street closure, 220th Street at Denker Avenue intersection, rehabilitation of the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California second lower feeder pipeline. Recommending the board, 1, approve the request for a full closure of the 220th Street and Denker Avenue intersection for a total of 25 consecutive weeks within a window starting as early as September 1st, 2019 and ending June 30th, 2020, subject to the conditions identified within the report. 2, approve the request for a directional closure of 220th Street westbound between Harvard Boulevard and Western Avenue for a total of 6 weeks within the period of September 1st, 2019 and ending June 30th, 2020, subject to the conditions identified within this report. And 3, authorize the city engineer and the director of the Bureau of Street Services to administratively approve any additional 2 weekends of full closures if unforeseen conditions delay the start and or completion of this project. And we have with us, forgive me, you are
Ms. Crystal
Ms.
Lee.
Lee. Thank you. Ms. Lee, go ahead.
Good morning, Commissioners and Board of Public Works and Bureau representatives. My name is Crystal Lee. I'm the Harbor District Engineer for Bureau of Engineering. I'm here to request the authority for a full closure of 220th Street at Denker Avenue for 25 consecutive weeks within a window between September 1st, 2019, this year, and June 30th, 2020 for the rehabilitation of the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California's second lower feeder pipeline. We are recommending to approve the request for a full closure of 220th Street at Denker Avenue for a consecutive 25 consecutive weeks within the window of September 1st, 2019, and ending June 30th, 2020, subject to the conditions identified within this report. We also are requesting to approve the request for the additional closure of 220th westbound between Harvard Boulevard and Western Avenue for a total of 6 weeks within the period of September 1st, 2019, and ending June 30th, 2020, subject to the conditions identified within this report. We are also recommending to authorize the City Engineer and Director of Bureau of Street Services to administratively approve, in addition, 2 weekends of full closures if unforeseen conditions delay the start or completion of this construction. MWD is also known as Metropolitan Water District of Southern California. It's a private entity that serves 19 million people in Southern California, and they are a wholesale water distribution system. They currently have a water distribution system located in Yorba Linda, where the second lower feeder pipe delivers potable water to residents. This is made of pre-stressed concrete cylinder pipe, or PCCP, and they currently have a rehabilitation program to go through and rehabilitate a lot of their pipelines that they've identified as a primary failures or things that they're identified as a risk of failure. They've done some research and monitoring, and data has been collected over the last 14 years, so they were able to identify which pipes needed the priority access and a priority rehabilitation. Of the second lower feeder, the highest priority is the PCC line that I mentioned, and they will address this over several projects over the next 12 years. Currently, they are rehabilitating 24,000 linear feet of 78-inch pipe. The PCC in the lower feeder project along 220th Street between Normandy and Western contains about 2,500 linear feet of pipe that will be relined. The access point is going to be at Denker Avenue, right where 220th is. And this site was selected because it provides the most access to the most pipe and the least amount of impact to the public right-of-way and to the residents around the area. They've obtained a permit through the Bureau of Engineering, permit number 2019-008-571, and they are requesting from LADOT, which they got approval for, a worksite traffic control plan which addresses the reroute and the closures, which was approved on March 5th, 2019, also included as transmittal number 1 and depicted graphically by figure number 1 in this board report. Additionally, their outreach program has included this closure and detour on their website and in their flyer that they will be distributing. These street closures are needed for safe execution of the construction activities on 220th Street, which include placement of K-rail to separate traffic from pipeline access because they will be creating a large excavation within the street. They're installing a 75-inch steel liner, which requires some laydown area, and we want to protect the public from any construction activity that they may encounter, so the K-rail will provide that protection. And the street surface repair, which will also take place during that construction period. While the street is closed through to traffic, during the directional closure of 220th Street westbound, residential access to all driveways will be maintained. If any impacts do need to impact the residents, they will be contacted. They've already been contacted in the immediate impact area, and they are fully aware, and no current issues have arisen. Additionally, no schools or public businesses will be affected by this closure. Since they're collector streets, they're not on large major thoroughfares. This project is also adjacent to Caltrans, the City of Carson, and the City of Torrance, and Metropolitan will obtain any required permits from these government agencies. I wanted to note that the feeder has been in continuous service for over 50 years and does require urgent repairs to the PCC segments over the last 12 years and has experienced a shorter than expected life. So Metropolitan Water District has been really proactive in trying to prevent any catastrophic failure. This is a pressurized pipe, and it wouldn't just leak if there was a failure. It would potentially be very catastrophic, let's just put it that way. Not only have they been proactive in the actual repair and construction, but they have a very intense outreach program. After the approval of this board report, they will immediately send out flyers to the public. About 7,000 flyers will be distributed in both English and Spanish. They'll promote the benefits of the project and why it's good for the community and the stakeholders. Not only will they be able to maintain service for all of their water distribution, but they will prevent any safety concerns and reduce risk with the repair with this lining. They also want to broaden awareness and support of the construction and help the public understand why this needs to happen. A point of contact has been provided on the flyer in addition to several social media contacts and an available website to the public. They will go back again probably in about a month and put out a more detailed flyer. Additionally, right before construction, they will walk, maybe 2 or 3 weeks before construction, they'll walk the streets and physically knock on doors to make sure everyone is very aware. So they have a very robust public outreach in this respect. Any outreach prior to the construction activities on the site will maintain throughout the duration of the project. There will always be an employee on site. If someone needs to contact or just say, hey, move this fence a little bit, you're in my way, or I need to move my car, and they will oblige. So I just wanted to commend Metropolitan Water District for having this robust program and outreach so far in advance, as well as the safety concerns and implications for the project.
Thank you, Ms. Lee. Just one quick question. Are any of the costs incurred by the city going to be reimbursed by the Metropolitan Water District?
So yes, some of the residents have been contacted on the immediate impact street, and there is one that will be reimbursed and has been compensated by Metropolitan.
Thank you. Dr. Davis.
I wanted to find out a couple things. First, in terms of the status of the route, it will not be a partial thoroughfare in operation. There will not be a partial thoroughfare in operation for constituents during the period of time in which we're doing the closure. Is that correct?
So there's 2 parts of it. There's the intersection that will be fully closed, and then the one directional on 220th. So in one direction it will be fully closed, but the other will be open.
Good. Then okay, so that will be the
That's
alternative.
the 6-week period within that month.
Are we also,
25
in terms of traffic, diverting some of the traffic to an alternative route? Is there an alternative route for most people who don't want to endure the challenges of going through our construction?
Correct. Yes, we've provided not only in the approved traffic control plans approved by LEDOT, exact signage and phasing of closure, but also in the flyer a very graphically represented detour route where they can go around the construction completely. It basically reroutes them a block this way, a block that way, just to avoid that street specifically.
Okay, my second issue, in terms of notification, we've targeted some constituents to whom we've made some communication. But in terms of reaching out to the impacted area, I guess you mentioned that I don't know if there are any businesses nearby that are impacted, any neighborhood associations. It looks like it's near the county line, and there are certainly other municipalities that have impact. Have we done any other kind of things, such as a town hall meeting about this project to the surrounding stakeholders?
I have Sal from Metropolitan Water District, who is their public outreach representative, and he can answer that.
Commissioner, yes, my name is Sal Vasquez. I'm the Manager of Community Relations for the Metropolitan Water District.
Good morning, sir.
We will be working with the City Council office. If they would like us to do a community meeting, we'll be more than happy to do one. We would even send out the invitations or do it through their social media.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful in a number of ways, not only in terms of their being able to access the appropriate routes, but in terms of their education, in terms of how we're improving the quality of life by, doing the work on these pipes. The other thing is, have we also considered newsletter notification? We have a number of uh, regional newsletters, if you will, that people in these neighborhoods read regularly. Have we included outreach in terms of notifying newsletters to help us in the awareness and increasing the awareness?
What we can do is we'll work with the social media, for example, that the city council office has. We have ours. We have a phone app that you can text pipeline to, and you will get all the information that we have, plus updates. For example, this is just one of 8 locations from Alameda all the way to Western.
I see.
So as we're opening up locations or closing them down, we will be able to update. In regards to to other medias, we have brought aboard Alliance and Sorrell and Associates to help us on this project because it's so large, 5 miles.
Sure.
That I'll be meeting with them now to really focus on the actual locations, and I will bring that up as there's other things.
Yeah, I think that might be helpful. We've done it traditionally as a practice for years, and I know we have social media now. Unfortunately, we still have some seniors who have not totally embraced social media.
Yeah,
And
I'm
so
still
we
trying to
want
figure
to,
out
as
my
a
phone app.
government, as government agencies collaborating with one another, we want to communicate as dynamically as we can and impact every constituent group that's impacted.
Right. So as I said, at the city council, I'll work it through them.
Sure. Oh,
And
great.
and then see about maybe finding a location and then doing a presentation. We are also on the other side in LA County, right behind the hospital, but they're all prepared for that too. So.
Yeah, I'm sure we got a Torrance paper, Carson paper, etc. Thank you.
I did forget to mention that they've already approached CD15, and we have a email written notification that they'll be working with us and they approve this closure, and they've been aware and they're working with the community already, but we can also address the newsletter concern.
Thank you.
And for those just listening and becoming aware of this project that might live in an impacted neighborhood, would you like to give out that text number, text pipeline 2? I think that's a really smart way of getting information to a lot of people.
It is. Let me find it there.
If you want to put the mic up to your mouth so folks can be sure to hear you in case they're listening online.
It is 90407, and then you just put pipeline, and then it will take you to our website. We're in the process now of putting it together, so we would have it, I think, ready next week. We just approved and they get to meet me in an avatar. So we used this successfully on Bristol in Orange County. We were doing similar thing, including in front of South Coast Plaza, and we did it for 3 miles from Santa Ana all the way down to the 405 freeway, and we got excellent response. In fact, we were corrected on one of our updates, so that means that local people were actually following it. All our materials would have it. We will also have a sign at each work location identifying that this is a Metropolitan Water District pipeline project, and it would have all our outreach information.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Any further questions, colleagues? Is there a second to my motion to adopt item 4 and send it forthwith? Seconded by Dr. Davis. Without objection, that item is adopted and sent forthwith. Thank you all. Let us go to item number 5 in Council District 7. Revised funding, Verdugo Crestline Drive Slope Repair Project. Recommending the board authorize and approve the revised funding as shown above for the Verdugo Crestline 7675 Slope Repair Project. And we have, I believe, Mr. Schmidt. Good morning.
Good morning to Vice President Caballo, Commissioners, Department Representatives, Dr. Campos, City Attorney Representative. My name is Patrick Schmidt with the Bureau of Engineering, Geotechnical Engineering Division, and I am here to present the motion for the Verdugo Crestline Drive Slope Repair Project. On May 1st, 2019, the Board of Public Works approved a motion to authorize the execution of a construction order to John S. Meek Incorporated in the amount of $362,570 with a not-to-exceed amount of $454,000, including contingency. As presented in the adopted motion, funding for the project was to be provided by Special Gas Tax Street Improvement Fund, Fund number 206, in the amount of $402,000, and Major M Local Return Fund, Fund 59C, in the amount of $52,000, for a total budget of $454,000. Since the adoption of that motion, funding for the project, the Special Gas Tax Street Improvement Fund has been replaced with SB1, Road Maintenance Rehabilitation Funding. So the revised funding for the project is now SB1, Road Maintenance and Road Maintenance and Rehabilitation Fund, Fund 59V, in the amount of $402,000. And the Major M Local Return Fund is the same, Fund 59C, in the amount of $52,000, for a revised total budget of the same amount of $454,000. I should note that Fund 59C has been reverted as part of the year-end accounting practices in the city as of June 30th, 2019. The Bureau of Engineering has requested that the reappropriation of these funds be included in the city administrative officer's annual capital improvement expenditure program reappropriation report, which will be submitted to the city council in the near future. Therefore, we are requesting that the board authorize and approve the revised funding as indicated for the Verdugo Crest Line slope repair project. Any questions?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Schmidt. So as I've mentioned before, I'm not a huge fan of motions from the bureaus, but I understand why they're put before us, and it's a way to expedite something in a simple substitution of funding sources with no impact to the general fund, which I always appreciate. But the reason I'm not a big fan of motions is they don't always give all the context. So if you can maybe explain for us why you're switching out gas tax for SB1 funding.
The revenue from the special gas tax, from the special gas tax street improvement fund was lagged behind projections. So as part of our program, which this is a part of the Hillside Accessibility Program, we meet biweekly with the representatives from the City Administrative Office and the CLA, and the revenues were coming in short, so they asked us to hold off on awarding the project. And then ultimately they decided they needed to take back that $402,000 for the Special Gas Tax Street Improvement Fund, and asked us to wait till the SB1 Road Maintenance Rehabilitation funding was available.
That would have been helpful in a report. Colleagues, any further questions?
I think another thing, if I could, Vice President Cabello, another suggestion also for the Bureau of Engineering, Patrick, for the future for motions, when indicating revised funding in the actual motion itself, it would be very helpful to include or indicate what revised funding you're changing the numbers to. So from an old number to a new number, that would be very helpful so that the motion stands by itself. Otherwise, the commissioners would have to read the entire motion to get to the actual approval of the amount, or somebody would have to read the entire motion to get to that dollar amount. In addition to that, when you're changing funds from 59C or 59V, it would be helpful if you can send me an email with the gas tax for 59V. We are the administrators to that fund. It's good to know that the Office of Accounting did check availability, but there is an impact when you do switch out funds. There is money in the fund right now, so I'm supporting this request, but it would be helpful for you to run it through myself and then also Gene Edwards from the Bureau of Engineering, who's the project manager over the gas tax.
Okay, thank you.
And I will defer completely to Dr. Campos on that, since I do not know the accounting numbers or accounting in general. So thank you, Dr. Campos, for that suggestions. Any further questions, colleagues? Seeing none, is there a second to my motion to adopt item 5 and send forthwith? Seconded by Commissioner Garcia. Without objection, that item is adopted and sent forthwith. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, so I'm still holding out hope that President James will join us very shortly. So why don't we go to our oral reports and hold number 3 on the desk. Oral report number 6, report on change orders issued. I think first up, the lucky winner is Street Services, Mr. Al-Saeb.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Nasser Al-Saeb, Bureau of Street Services. It's unusual to come to the board for construction contracts and to say there is nothing to report on change orders. It's a good news, and I hope it will continue for the next quarterly reports. But the reason we don't have anything to report is that we have 2 recently awarded projects that were awarded. The first one was awarded in June 14. The second one was awarded just last week, August 12. Field work has not started on both projects. And once we start, right now we're in the phase of conducting pre-construction meetings to start the work. Once the field work start, I'm sure there's going to be, normally, unforeseen conditions, some scope changes, something, and we will come to the board and report these changes. But for these grant-funded projects, there is nothing to report for this period. The other projects that we are doing right now for Measure M sidewalk program and Complete Street, it's done in-house by our crews, and for this reason we don't have change orders, when work is done by our people, city crews and city forces. So that's the report for this reporting period. Any questions?
We will file that under no news is good news. But just one quick question. The Los Angeles River Headwater Bikeway Project and the San Fernando Road Bikeway Project, what districts are those in? Council districts? If you can get back to me
I'm
with
not sure.
that,
I can get
that
back
would
with you.
be
I'm not
helpful.
sure.
I always like to know where
Okay.
our grant-funded project's going. And
The first one is the headwater is in the East Valley, East Sun Valley area. Not sure exactly which council district. The other one is San Fernando Valley Road. I'm not sure. I can get back with you. I'll email you with the council districts for both projects.
okay, so we're thinking at CD 6 or 7. Commissioner Garcia.
Hi, thank you, Vice President Cabello. Two questions. It sounds like you're saying that both projects are in the valley?
One is in the East Sun Valley, in the East Valley area. The first one, the headwater, and the second one is in the San Fernando Valley.
Sun Valley is in the San Fernando Valley, too.
San Fernando Valley,
They're both in the San Fernando.
both
in the San Fernando
Yes,
Valley.
yes.
Okay. Can you, I had a question on the San Fernando Road Bike Path Phase 3. Can you tell me a little bit of the scope of work that's going to go into that Phase 3?
We are building a bike path that will connect basically to the bike path. It's continuation of the bike path that starts from the Riverside project here in downtown. We are building about 4 miles of bike path from Mason Street to. It's 4 miles. I'll get you the exact where does it start and where does it end. But part of this project also, we will be building a bridge, pedestrian bridge and bikeway bridge over the bike path. That will be between existing vehicular bridge and existing road bridge. That's part of the scope of this project.
Okay, maybe we can schedule a briefing. I want to hear more about this.
Sure.
I guess my last question on this, when do we expect Phase 3 to start and end?
Phase 3 will, it's 700 working days, so it's about 3 years project. The notice to proceed, we anticipate to come this week or next week. The project was awarded last Monday. So once it starts, it's about 3 years.
Okay.
Project.
Okay. Yes. Can you confirm what districts they're both in, please?
Sure.
Maybe you can send us an email after this meeting.
I will.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
sure.
you very much.
Sure. Thank you.
Any other further questions, colleagues? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And next up, from Bureau of Engineering, Mr. Wong. Welcome.
Good morning. I'm Ethan Wong with the Bureau of Engineering Construction Management Division. The report before you lists the construction change orders that are issued for under $150,000 by the city engineer during the past quarter, which was April 1st through June 30th, 2019. The report lists the change orders by project. A total of 54 projects are shown, and 293 change orders were issued during that quarter. The total aggregate value of those change orders was approximately $3.5 million. One change order I'd like to highlight that was processed through my division, Construction Management Division, was for the Lincoln Park Pool and Bathhouse Replacement Project. It's listed on page 7 of the report. The change order was for the removal of extra dirt from various areas of the project site. So the project site was to basically demolish the existing bathhouse and pool, and because of the expansion of the pool, there was significant haul-off of dirt, excavation and haul-off of dirt. The contractor contended that they had $89,000 extra value of dirt hauled off of the site and submitted that request to our division. Division staff went through and did a detailed quantity takeoff of the bid documents, as well as a cost estimate, went through all of the haul tickets and dump tickets from the various landfills, and found that the value was only $26,500. We met with the contractor several times and were able to convince them that they were actually trying to charge us for what was considered contract work, and we settled for $26,500, which saved $60,000. This concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Yes, let me just start with Albion, a beautiful park. Both Commissioner Coloz and I were there for the opening. We're really excited to see it. It's such a major achievement in a community that desperately needed something like that to that scale. Is the number of change orders because it was closing out and about to open? Is that why there's such a list, such a long
Yeah,
list?
that's correct. There was a lot of items that scope changes and various things at the end that had to be basically implemented and were executed near the end of the project.
Got it. And the same question applying to Elgin Sutton. That's quite a number as well. What's the status of that project?
So the status of Elgin Sutton, there were actually 2 fires that were arson fires.
We did hear that, Lord.
So the Department of Recreation and Parks requested that we basically repair parts of the existing pool house that were not part of the original scope of work. So we did that as part of the project, which caused quite a bit of change orders when doing those repairs.
Yes, thank you for that reminder. We did hear that in board, and that was unfortunate. Okay, colleagues, any further questions? Thank you, Mr. Wong. And with that, we will note and file item number 6. So let us go now to item number 3. And this will be a long one, so bear with me here. Pipeline franchise agreements, non-compliance of insurance requirements, violations, and monetary policies. Recommending the board, 1, direct the petroleum administrator to issue violations to the franchisee as listed below for failure to comply with section 5.2 insurance requirements of the franchise ordinance. That's O'Donnell Oil. Ordinance number 181075, continued from our meeting of June 24th, 2019. 2, approve the monetary penalty assessed to the franchisee as listed below for failure to comply with section 5.2 insurance requirements of the franchise ordinance. O'Donnell Oil, $10,000, continued from our meeting of June 24th, 2019. This item is continued as amended from Friday, July 12th, 2019, Monday, June 24th, 2019, Friday, April 26, 2019, and Monday, February 25th, 2019. The original board meeting date was Friday, October 26, 2018. So we have a public comment card at this time. Sir, Mr. Coffey, would you like to hear the report from Mr. Ntuk first before commenting? Okay, we'll go ahead and do that. Mr. Ntuk. Is he here? Oh, yes, he's here. I didn't see.
Good morning, Vice President Cabello, Board of Public Works members, Board of Public Works leadership and staff. Yes, this is a follow-up from our original hearing in October of 2018 as we went through all of our franchisees in 2018 to verify insurance bonding and compliance with their franchises. This is one of the last outstanding items that we have had several hearings on, continuances, have granted courtesy extensions, and had expended numerous hours of staff time, resources, correspondence, and information back and forth. Back at the last hearing, April 26, 2019, that was the last follow-up. There was uncertainty if the insurance requirements applied. It was determined at the March 11th hearing that they do apply. There is the CAO Risk Management Office determines the insurance requirements for pipeline franchise operators. This franchise is still in effect and active, and it's for crude oil pipelines that are connected to oil wells. In particular, this segment of pipeline we're talking about is connected to O'Donnell well number 71 that was last reported active to the state in 2017 through 2016, producing crude oil and produced water from this well through the only connected pipeline. As of 2 years ago, Dogger has not made updates to their public data since April of 2018. So there may have been more recent action or activities of the line, but we are unaware. Part of the original hearing in October, contrary to a letter that was provided to the board today, alleging that we recognize that we did not properly notice Aldana Oil. We did, as well as we properly noticed all other pipeline franchisees. At one point, we had 35 that were non-compliant, and we're currently down to the last 2. We gave a courtesy extension of 90 days to comply. They did not comply in that time period. We had a hearing in March. They disclosed to us they had changed the use of the pipeline, both in October, February, and in March. But part of that is in the franchise, you need to get authorization or disclosure of change of use. Change of use also triggers that was a rationale that they are still required to follow the insurance requirements that have been set by the CAO's office since 2018. Just recently, on August, let's see here, August 8th, I believe. August 16th, they did finally submit updated insurance. It did not meet the requirements as been outlined since last year. They did improve their general liability coverage, but they do not have their pollution liability coverage. In addition, this is far beyond the 90 days that we gave them in October. We're now at 299 days. We are beyond the April 26th deadline by 117 days. And if we took March 11th as the date that they should have come in compliance 90 days from then, we are 158 days beyond that. This is a first notice or first offense, a violation, which is itemized in the franchise, which the board has the authority to issue. We, in previous hearings, have expressed frustration with this continued delay and failure to comply. There's a second issue that's been brought up, but not part of the recommendations. You have 2 recommendations to issue the violation and issue the $10,000 penalty. We have also received notice from the franchisee that they would like to terminate their pipeline franchise agreement. We have been in correspondence with them about the procedures. We provide an example that we received a 1-page summary scope of work of a pipeline abandonment plan that was inadequate. And just to see some of the issues with that and why I do not recommend that we adopt the abandonment plan as submitted, there's a discrepancy in the length of the pipeline from what we have in the franchise versus what they are asking to abandon. We've been provided with no procedures, no schematics, no P&IDs, no geotechnical map. It does not meet the Bureau of Engineering's abandonment standards. It does not itemize state or federal pre- and post-inspection compliance, which will be required to meet the franchise's abandonment terms. It has no line purge protocols disclosed, no soil testing to make sure there's no contamination. There's no pipeline safety records provided, no disclosure to meet the street damage restoration standard as required by the city.
Let me stop you right there, Mr. Antuk. Dr. Campos, a point of clarification. The abandonment plan would come before the board on a separate issue.
That's a separate item. That's
so
not
let's
before
go
the
ahead and
board.
just make sure that we are very clear on that, colleagues, and that we maybe put that aside for now and deal with the matter in front of us, if that's okay. But this is good information to know.
And lastly, we did issue a second notice of violation August 9th because we had not had compliance. And we did have this previously scheduled, and we've extended it again to today so that, as requested, that they asked for more time. But we have moved forward with beginning the process of the second notice of violation, which would incur a $25,000 penalty if the board adopted it. So,
Thank you, sir. Mr. Coffey.
Thank you, Vice President Cabello. Thank you, Board, for allowing me the time to respond. I just want to clarify some of the facts in terms of how we got here in the procedure. Back in October 2018, when this matter was first on the agenda that's now been continued to today, we pointed out that there was a requirement under the franchise agreement that there had to be a 90-day notice to do any kind of insurance increase, which hadn't happened. And it's undisputed that didn't happen. And we went through a series of correspondence and efforts in that regard to ensure that that did happen. And it wasn't until, and I'm pointing to Exhibit 3 to the letter I submitted, March 11th of this year that the actual 90-day notice went out. And it specifically indicates we now have 90 days from that date to comply with the new insurance requirements. So all of these deadlines that were being referenced in terms of we're now 299 days out from when we were supposed to have the requirements, procedurally and factually, that's simply not correct. The board recognized that it hadn't properly noticed this issue, and the notice went out on March 11, 2019. That started the 90 days to comply. So there was the obligation to comply did not even happen until 90 days after March 11 of this year. In response to all of that, what we have been trying to do, and the insurance increases that have recently been imposed as a result of that notice, there's four categories of insurance we're to comply with. We're in compliance, first of all, in October of 2018, we're in compliance with all of those requirements existing at that time. Secondly, based on the new requirements imposed per the March 11, 2019 notice, there are four components to that. The two most significant increases, one was to increase general liability from $5 million to $10 million. That's the increase that we just recently complied with and filed with the city last week. The fourth component, and this is the one that we have been raising as an issue, and other producers did as well throughout this entire process, is the $25 million sudden and gradual pollution liability requirement. And I've submitted as Exhibit 11, first of all, Exhibit 10 shows our current insurance and that we do comply with 3 of the 4 requirements. As to this fourth element, the $25 million sudden and gradual pollution liability that's been imposed, and I've submitted as Exhibit 11 a note from our broker, even if we could get that insurance, which we don't know that we could, the premium is going to be in excess of $100,000. It's cost prohibitive. And for that reason, that's why we have begun within the last, after we got the March 11 notice, as Mr. Intuck indicated, we have indicated that we simply want to terminate and abandon this agreement in the pipeline. But the only issue that we have with the insurance is this $25 million sudden and gradual pollution liability that's going to cost over $100,000, which we simply can't afford. And that would be the only basis upon which to impose a penalty upon us. I would submit, under the franchise agreement, the board is not obligated to impose a penalty. It's purely a discretionary item. The facts and circumstances of this matter are that the only reason we cannot comply with a requirement that we did oppose, because for the reason we didn't believe that level should apply to our operation, and it was just something we couldn't afford. That's the only issue now that we have with the insurance. And we recognize we can't afford that. So if the board is going to impose it, then we need to just terminate the franchise and be done with it. And that's all we're trying to do, is just get out of that. We want to be done with it. We don't want to have any further dealings with it. In order to do that, we have to work with Mr. Intuck to get an approved pipeline removal/abandonment plan. And we're trying to address that. Mr. Intuck just recently, on Friday, I believe it was, indicated that he would be sending me correspondence to indicate issues that needed to be addressed for us to be able to achieve a plan that could be approved. And I'm waiting to get that. And once I get it, we will go through it and work with Mr. Intuck and his office to get this done. It's our goal to do so. We've been told until that happens, we still are subject to the insurance requirements. And I would submit, in I just believe, under the circumstances of this matter, it's just fundamentally unfair where we have a situation where we can't comply because of the exorbitant cost it would take, and we're trying to just extract ourselves from this agreement, get out of this situation, be done with it to everyone's satisfaction, that in the meantime we get penalized because of an insurance requirement that we can't afford to make. We've, as I said, we've all the other insurance is in place, and I raised this just because I had sought a 30-day continuance of this hearing for additional time to find out all the issues that Mr. Intuck was going to send me and try to get those addressed so we could come back and hopefully reach a point of resolution before there are any penalties. One of the significant reasons for that, and I raised it in my letter, but it's another fact, my client, Bonnie Doyle, and her husband are the operators of O'Donnell, which is a very small operation, and her husband has had cancer and has 3 surgeries this year, including one most recently where he was in the hospital in August up and through into August 12th. It's just slowed their reaction time a bit on trying to address all of this because of that. I understand that's the good news is he doesn't have any surgeries planned for a while. We're waiting to get the information from Mr. Intuck. We plan to take it, and as I said, do our best to get this matter resolved. What we would respectfully ask the board to do under this circumstance is give us a little more time to try to do that before a penalty is assessed. Again, my read of the franchise agreement, and I attached that as Exhibit 1 under Section 2.6, is this isn't something that's mandatory to be imposed, a penalty, it's discretionary. And I would respectfully request the board exercise that discretion not to assess a penalty at this time, continue the hearing. I had requested 30 days. Give us an opportunity to fully vet all the issues that Mr. Intuck has with a plan, see if we can address all those issues, resolve them, and get this done without having to incur a financial penalty, because the other part of this is whatever we do in an abandonment or pipeline removal situation is going to require cost on behalf of my client to do. And if they're having to face paying penalties at the same time they're trying to comply and get a removal plan done, which I think is what is in everybody's interest at this point, given where the city is, I think it's going to be counterproductive to assess a penalty under these facts. I think we've demonstrated good faith by putting as much insurance as we can in place. We just can't meet that final requirement of the $25 million. That's the $100,000 premium.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Coffey.
Thank you.
Any further public comment cards on this item, Dr. Campos?
None.
Okay, with that, then we will close public comment and we can take up questions. We have Commissioner Garcia.
Yes, I think I have maybe 2 questions for Mr. Intuck. Uruguay, let me clarify the situation. Are we assessing a penalty of $10,000 or $25,000? I heard $25,000 somewhere.
Before you today is a $10,000 penalty.
Okay, before today. And I heard they have 3 out of the 4 insurances that are required through the city, right?
So there's workers' comp, there's auto, there's general liability, and pollution liability. So they previously had workers' comp and auto. They didn't meet the general liability or the pollution liability requirements. While they have increased their general liability requirements, they did it after the 90-day notice period and after the hearings, so they didn't meet the deadline for compliance. So even if we said we talked about the March 11th deadline, that was 158 days.
Okay. Is the pollution coverage liability, do all the others have that insurance as well?
Yes, all operators, big and small, have paid violations or come into compliance for that insurance requirement.
Because it sounds like that pollution liability coverage is about $100,000, so every other has paid about $100,000 for that insurance?
The insurance varies by operator. I did see a note from the broker, but I didn't see the quote of the actual amount. There's other folks have done self-insurance, which has come before the board. There are folks who did group insurance. There's a number of insurance and risk management tools out there specifically for operators. The reason that pollution liability is so high, and actually was negotiated down from $50 million to $25 million, because of the risk of the crude oil. Crude oil pipelines and wells, which this is connected to an unabandoned, active, or idled well right now that was active 2 years ago, is that if there was a spill or an accident, that's hazardous material. It's considered high risk. It's in an urbanized area. There's risk. They've not disclosed any evidence to show that the risk doesn't exist. The line has not been purged or idled or any other type of mechanism to show that the well has not been abandoned, which would alleviate the risk. There's things that could be done. We have no evidence to support that the risk no longer is there.
Can I ask the appellant now? Have you guys taken any measures? Oh, don't go far, Uruak. Have you guys taken other measures of complying with what Uruak is talking about?
With regard to abandoning the well?
Right.
No.
No measurements have been taken.
It's idle. It hasn't been abandoned. I would dispute the level of risk of an abandoned oil well, even with crude oil, given the level. This is not a massive operation. It's a well.
So is the primary plan for your company to close it or to revitalize it again? What's the primary goal for your company?
Well, the goal would be if we could continue to operate the well, we will, but not with utilizing a
100,
franchise.
not utilizing a franchise agreement. Is that what you're saying?
And not utilizing a pipeline with the city.
Can I, Uruak? I'm just trying to clarify the situation because this is what I'm trying to figure out. Why is it that it's $100,000 for a pollution liability coverage? To me, it sounds a lot too. I get that. It almost sounds like it's better to just pay the penalty than pay for the insurance and abandon the well, right? But is that what the owner wants to do with the company?
Well, obviously, it's not what we want to do.
Okay.
It's the effect of being forced to pay $100,000 or more for insurance that we can't afford. The effect is that we effectively cannot then continue to operate under this franchise.
Right. But Uruak, did you just say that there's other cost or lower cost on those type of insurances that they can probably obtain? It doesn't have to go up to $100,000? There are alternatives. Have you guys researched any alternatives?
Yeah, there aren't alternatives that have a lower cost, and we can't self-insure. Self-insure means you have assets, obviously, that you could do a $25 million. That's larger companies can self-insure. That can be done. Believe me, we've looked at it. That's the cost we're getting, and I attached that information from our broker. And so obviously, we don't want to terminate and abandon the franchise, but we really have no choice given the cost that we're looking at as a result of the increase in the insurance. And that's why we opposed to begin with, but we are where we are. And we're simply now just trying to extricate ourselves from this situation and be done with the franchise agreement and get a plan that can be approved and accomplish all those things. What we don't think is fair is that we be penalized in the meantime monetarily.
I'm trying to understand what is your goal, and I'm trying to figure out if there's, if you want to come to, okay, Uruak has something. I'll come back to you too. Sorry.
A couple issues that don't want to conflate. The well is not abandoned. If it were abandoned, there would be less risk.
Right.
The well is idle. That means it's open steel casing down and cement down to the reservoir. That because of the whatever surface equipment, it holds pressure of gas, water, oil.
In your professional expertise, do you feel or do you think that this company can get a lower rate? Or how is, I'm trying to see, it doesn't go. They're charging them the $100,000 for this insurance. It sounds a lot. So it sounds like it's better for them off.
I think we should be cautionary. This is not auto insurance or home insurance or some personal insurance we may think of sounds a lot. This is the standard operating procedure.
Right.
While they may be a small business, this is in no way should indicate they don't make gross revenues over $100,000. This operation and the oil that's produced is very valuable, and this is a very common cost that other operators pay.
That's what I was going to say. So other operators, the size of their oil company, have paid about $100,000 also on the insurance?
We, NASCO operations in downtown LA,
okay.
They recently complied by getting
okay. So it sounds like, like this company can't afford that insurance, so they would rather go on closing the well, right?
So we can do both. So we can do the penalty and we can proceed with the abandonment. They're not mutually exclusive. However, there is no way that in the future they're going to be able to operate this well and not have a pipeline go through the city of LA. That's not how we operate. That's not in our land use or our public right-of-way. There's more length of this pipeline than what's being discussed today that also goes through the city's public right-of-way that needs to be addressed. We've I think, unfairly been focused on just a smaller segment, but it's just that type of operation is not legally happens where you can have a well that doesn't go through the city, in the city.
So if they would have submitted their plan about a month ago, their closing plan, and you would have approved it, then they wouldn't be charged $10,000.
No, that's unrelated. They did send us a letter saying they would like to terminate their franchise. The first step in that is submitting an abandonment plan to be approved by the board, which is a separate agenda item than what we're talking about.
Right. But what he's asking is not to get penalized as they close down their well, right, in the next month or so, right?
They've not indicated they're going to close their well down. That's a separate process of abandoning a well with Dogger, the state agency. This pipeline connects to the well. The well is not abandoned. The well was recently as active as of 2 years ago. That crude oil and water transported through this segment of pipeline. That was why we brought up the nature that this is not just an isolated segment of pipe not connected to anything. It is connected to a well that goes to a tank. So that was why it was highlighting that.
I think it's also important to note, Fernando Campos, Executive Officer, that the ordinance does require a franchisee to have their insurance open and active, also the bond requirement as they go through an abandonment process. So the abandonment process could take several months. It is subject to the notification from the franchisee to the city indicating that they want to abandon. Number two, as Mr. Untuck indicated, that plan needs to be reviewed. Then after it's reviewed, it comes before this board to either approve, deny, or amend that abandonment plan. Then they actually go out and do the abandonment process. That could take several months, and then do safety checks, make sure that everything's in order. Then we come back to the board to do a final acceptance of that abandonment. That process could take several months. Could be 6 months. It could be as little as maybe 12 months or even longer. My point is that during that abandonment process, the ordinance does require franchisees to have active insurance coverage at that time, current insurance coverage. So at this point, they do not have all the requirements that the city risk manager is requiring of us.
Thank you, that's helpful. Okay, that's all my questions for now.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia. Commissioner Davis.
The question before us is to issue a violation of franchise E and also to assess the monetary penalty of $10,000 or not. That's what we are here for today on this matter. And it is clear that the company would like very much to continue to operate if they could. And it's also clear that there is a financial hardship that the company has, which brings us to our task in terms of the compliance of companies to have this insurance, this $25 million pollution liability insurance, which our vendor is saying, our oil company is saying, it cost them $100,000, which leads me to the question of whether or not we have technical assistance for companies that have problems in staying afloat, in operating. We know what their problem is. Do insurance companies have plans that will allow a client, the oil company in this case, to pay in partial payments? Certainly, if they don't have $100,000 at front, can they pay partially through some arrangement and agreement with insurance companies, understanding what their obligation is to the city to have this insurance? Now, those of us who are around the table and we drive, we don't have to pay all of our auto insurance all at once. You did secondly mention that there is a group insurance, which generally group insurance plans are usually a little cheaper. I don't know to what degree the company has explored these options, given the fact that they have expressed to us that they would like very much to stay in business. So I don't know, Uduak, if in fact we are in the business of providing technical assistance to our oil companies in the way that we provide technical assistance to our other businesses that do business with the city. Is that something perhaps in the future we might be able to assist with, or would it be in our best interest as we look to the fact that we're in this business of oil that we could help companies who come to us with these kind of hardships?
We can certainly advise and refer, but we're not in a position to
We can't do the work for them, I
do
understand.
their work for them. But the industry trade associations do the group insurance. So the American Petroleum Institute, Western States Petroleum Association, the California Independent Petroleum Association, they are the venue that an operator would go through to connect with those type of insurance companies. They market and have tables at events and are plainly out there. I don't have it in my scope of work to go out and categorize and find that for operators. Maybe that's something in economic development or another part of the city that could provide
Let me
that.
tell you
but
what we do as a city in other areas where we do business with businesses, and perhaps not, obviously, the oil businesses. But when we do business in construction and we do businesses with other businesses with the city, we oftentimes have a person in the staff that provides technical assistance in assisting them. We further provide awareness and education that through these programs and education, we bring these companies in and we give them all of the information they need. And oftentimes, we will even bring in the vendors. In this case, it would be bringing in the insurance companies and give them an orientation to these things that they need to further develop, to grow, and to be successful in doing business with us. Now, currently we don't do this, and your office is new. But that is not something that we do not do with other businesses that do businesses with the city. So my question is, as we move forward in the future, because I am hearing that they want to do business with us, though I also realize that it is critically important that they have insurance, and I'm never suggesting that someone come in here without it. But yet, I think that if in fact it's possible moving forward, we can do that. Now that leads me to my other issue, which is in terms of compliance. They complied with us on the other insurances after the fact, did you say?
That's correct.
Okay. And they failed to give us the $25 million pollution liability.
Partial compliance.
They have partial compliance.
They improved from two to four to 3 to 4 requirements. So there's 4 requirements. They previously had 2 of the requirements met.
Now they have
now
3
have
of the
3 of the
4.
requirements met, even though it was
Absent
late.
the pollution liability.
And liability has not been
Okay.
complied with.
So having said where we are today, which is my issue here, compliance deadline, they came after the compliance deadline, but they did show some effort to comply. But it's after the deadline, and I get that. And they are short of pollution liability. Is it, in your opinion, within reason to consider further research as it relates to them complying with the insurance for pollution liability? That is something, because I'm not really convinced that they have looked in the insurance industry for this kind of a product to the best of ability of what's available. I'm not sure of that. So I want to ask you as our administrator, do you think, given the fact of where we are, and I'm not dealing with what's the question before us, which is the $10,000 penalty yet, but absent that, and I'm going to come to that, do you think it would be helpful if we were to consider additional opportunity to see if in fact they can get an agreement from an insurance company, given the fact of where they have come to now, and I realize it's after the fact? Do you think it's reasonable for us to pursue that possibility?
No. And I'll say, one, they have not made the claim that they were going to go out of business, only that they did not They wanted to continue to do business. They have other wells and other operations outside of our jurisdiction. So this is not something that's putting their entire business operation at risk. Two, we are expending a more exorbitant amount of resources on this franchise. We only get about $400 a year in an annual franchise payment from this company. This is not a large or significant revenue source. We have spent multiple amount of staff time beyond what we get from this company on this specific issue. And it's really a matter of unfairness to the other operators who have gone forth and complied and done the research and have paid penalties and assessments appropriately, that it's unfair to them to say now this one operator should be exempt because they just simply don't want to pay
No, I'm
the
not
penalty,
saying that they should
or
be
they don't.
exempt.
That's what I hear they're asking
My
for.
question does not infer that they should be exempt. My question asks if our agency should be looking at the possibility in this unique circumstances. Unfortunately, all businesses are not equal, both financially and, of course, you could say in terms of capability as well. Now, I'm asking because if somebody really wants to do business with us, and knowing that all businesses are not equal, I'm not asking us to go out of our way if we think somebody's not capable and they're not qualified, but yet I want to know that when we have one or two businesses, that if given the appropriate education and information, they could be better. And we do it in other areas, if we could do it here. And that's all I'm saying. Now, I'm not saying that we're not going to give them a penalty. I'm not saying we're not going to give them a penalty, but I want to stretch past the obvious to the possibilities of success for people who have had problems, but that with the appropriate education and awareness, they could be better. And we have done it in other areas where we do business. So that's why I asked you that question. Now, let me ask you this question. What do you think, based upon what you have shared with me, what do you think their motivation could possibly be, given the fact that you've explained to me they have these other areas of business, that they have these other operations? What is it, do you think, motivates them to come in here and to suggest to us that they have a hardship and they can't get this done, given the fact that they have these other businesses that must obviously be operating successfully? What could their motivation be?
It would only be speculation. I don't know why they don't want to comply. I mean, they've given the reasons of costs as a reason.
But yet they're successful in other areas of their businesses.
They do have other operational oil wells and facilities.
So basically they could get the money from those other areas to come here and be in compliance.
I think that's probably true.
Let me ask them.
Yeah, I agree.
Let me ask them. My question to you is, given the reality of your business and given the reality of where we are today, why is it that you cannot be more successful in being in compliance financially?
Well, I'm not sure there's no evidence here of what the other wells that operate may bring, but those are not within the jurisdiction of the city. They have nothing to do with this franchise agreement. The well at issue here, even if producing, wouldn't even be able to come close to covering. It wouldn't be financially feasible to pay more than $100,000 to get insurance to maintain this franchise. That's what I'm saying. So I don't think it's appropriate. I mean, I don't think it's proper to say, well, you have other wells that have nothing to do with the city. You should take money from them, and then you should pay to try to satisfy this insurance requirement. The reality is, based on the operations in connection with this franchise, the $100,000 is prohibitive, and it's prohibitive for them to pay. And I don't even, that's the fact.
Well, let me just say, I'm not.
If they could afford it and do it and maintain it, they would have done so. We wouldn't have gone through this. And the catch-22 we're in now is that the city holds the keys to us getting out of this by having to approve everything we're going to do in terms of a removal, and it could take a while. But in the meantime, I think it's fundamentally unfair to be assessed penalties, repeated penalties potentially, in a situation where the sole issue is this exorbitant premium that we can't pay. And that was the result of a dramatic increase in insurance that wasn't there before for the first 9 years of the franchise. So that's the
I
dilemma.
would like to think that there could be an agreement with some insurance company that would be able to work with your company in a way in which you could afford to be able to get the penalty, the pollution liability insurance. I would like to think, even if in fact it was 100,000, that somebody would give you an opportunity to pay $5,000. I'm just throwing out there that I would think that there would be a company, whether you use a group insurance plan or whatever. But I guess you've done a thorough research.
Yeah, we've worked through our insurance broker to search this out, and I attached the information she provided on the cost. The information.
Did you look at multiple insurance brokers? I don't want to do your business, but I'm just saying I just don't understand why some insurance companies did not work with you.
This is the information we have through our search to get insurance, which we conducted. We're happy to continue to try to do that and see if there's any other solutions.
Highly suggest that. I'm not saying that I don't trust your broker, but I would certainly have to verify that that's the only option available, because I would like to see businesses, to the degree that they can, succeed in doing business with the city of Los Angeles. And I am still trying to figure out why, in fact, if you have been successful in these other parts of your conglomerate, that you haven't been able to do so here on this side of the business.
Well,
and then try to determine why you would be motivated to come here under these circumstances if it were not true that you've tried and just haven't had the appropriate information and help to do so. So I'm not clear about that. It does leave me puzzled, even considering the testimony we've had today as to why you're in the circumstance that you're in today. And while there have been some potential problems in terms of compliance with the city, on one hand, I still feel a commitment to make sure that we do everything we can to make sure businesses are successful on the other hand. And so I'm speaking to that more so than I'm speaking to our decision on the penalty. I still would like to see you, penalty or not, to succeed in doing business with the city of Los Angeles. And given the fact that you have been successful in these other areas, it does concern me that we can't have success for you in this business. And I have to tell you that personally, that's how I feel.
Well, I appreciate your comments, sir. I really do. But I'll tell you, the issue that we have with the city that we don't have with our other operations is that they impose this $25 million sudden and gradual insurance requirement that dramatically increase our cost of operation. That's the issue. The cost of this operation under this franchise doesn't make sense based on this increased insurance cost. It doesn't. And that's why we're trying now to just back out of this and be done with it. And the catch-22 dilemma, which I frankly think is just fundamentally not fair, is that, again, we're held up to a process where that we don't control when we can get that done, and we're going to work with the city to try to get it done as soon as possible. Our point is we just don't think we should be subject to penalties and having to pay money for one aspect of insurance that we can't afford to get, when we're essentially putting our hands up and saying, okay, we understand you've imposed this, you're not going to back down on it, so we are where we are. We just want to get out and be done, but we don't feel like we should be continuing to be assessed penalties during that process. That's my main point.
Hopefully, in concluding, that we will help you to move forward on whatever the best solution is for your company, and that I hope in the future we can have insurance companies that will work with our businesses. And all companies who are doing oil business have to have that insurance. You're not alone. Everyone else has to have it as well. And so what is it that everyone else is able to do successfully? Are they more successful? I don't know what the answer is. But I do know that it is important for us to have that insurance. And I do believe that there should be some insurance companies somewhere in the state of California or other places that should be able to help a business to stay afloat and be successful. And we've not had that here. I don't know if it's because of the 90-day notification that you claim that you got, if that was not enough time for you to further explore the possible insurance companies that might potentially exist to help you or not. But hopefully, moving forward, whatever you and our administrator decide is the best mutual solution for your company, hopefully we can do that. And it is my hope that moving forward, we will have companies that won't have insurance problems. And I know we're not an insurance company, but I do care about all of our businesses having the appropriate information. Why is it that every other business could successfully get an insurance company to help them? And I don't know why you don't have to have that kind of insurance in other places where you're doing business, but you haven't had that problem in those other operations, but yet you've had it here. So it does raise a red flag in terms of evaluating the potential success of a business. And so that, for me, is the major concern here, even as we look at not being able to comply in a timely manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis. Commissioner Cabello?
I'd just like to note for the record that President James is in attendance, and he is chairing the meeting, so I'm acting in a capacity of just plain old Vice President Commissioner, so with my questions. This has been going on longer than I've been on the board. And Mr. Coffey, I understand every argument because there tends to be a new one every time you appear before us, whether it's the notification, whether it's an insurance premium, et cetera. I think that the longer this is postponed to work it out, the higher your penalties go. So I think there has to be a resolution to this, and very soon, if not today. Having sent over this big packet with all of your exhibits to only Commissioner James the morning of the hearing is not helpful to his colleagues, nor is it respectful to the board. So I really don't see a path forward other than to adopt the recommendations before us. Thank you.
Can I make one comment about the packet, just in fairness? Because I was told by Mr. Entuck that the agenda today, and this was sprung on me, I think, on August 9th. Oh, by the way, we're now going to assess a $25,000 penalty at this hearing. So I was...
But you do realize there are 5 commissioners on this board, correct? And addressing this only to President James, even if you weren't given sufficient notice, isn't extremely helpful. He received it before he got here. We hadn't. We were just distributed to it right away. So it doesn't help us and be fully informed in whatever argument you're trying to make. So just duly note that for the future.
I appreciate that. I didn't get the agenda till Monday. I got the letter done Tuesday. Every letter I've ever sent to this board was to Mr. James because I thought that's how it was supposed to be done and everyone would get a copy. I meant no disrespect to anybody, and in the future, everyone will be copied on my letter. And so if that's an issue, I apologize for it.
Commissioner Garcia.
Thank you, President James. So based on the email that you received from your broker, it sounds like you got it Friday afternoon at 2:42. So it doesn't sound like there was much of a research happening there if you got the last quote on Friday the 16th, which was last Friday, and then we had our hearing today. So let me just ask you, did your office or did your broker or whoever you use look around? Because regardless whether you're going to go with shutting down the well, or you're going to keep it operational, you still have to have insurance based on the statement that Dr. Campos said today. So is there an opportunity? I'm with Dr. Davis. I completely agree everything he said. Is there something that you guys haven't looked at, or can you look at what other franchises are doing to get an insurance that's affordable? Can you just get it for like 6 months while you work out the plan? We're just trying to figure this out so that you comply regardless of whether you're going to close it or keep it open.
I believe the insurance broker had conducted diligence when she provided us that information, and I know it was information that had also been previously, she was confirming information she'd gotten before, so it wasn't just done on that Friday. But I am more than happy to go back to her and whatever sources and figure out if there's some, and that was one of the reasons I had asked for a 30-day continuance, was also to do more due diligence to see about if there's some kind of interim insurance that could satisfy everybody while we're in the process of just winding down and getting out, so we don't have to keep coming back and dealing with these issues. And believe me, we will make every effort to do that, to see if there's some gap coverage of some kind that we could put in place that everyone would agree that's satisfactory and you're in compliance for purposes of winding this thing down and getting it done.
It sounds like today, and we got confirmation from Uruguay earlier, that the fee that we're question right now, it's just $10,000, right? Uruguay? It's not 25. Where did that come from?
Yeah, this is from your agenda from October of 2018.
Okay.
We did send, as of the question of notice, we did send a letter on August 9th about beginning the process of a second violation, but they asked for an extension and we did not agendize that today. So even though we did send them notice about 2.5 weeks ago, we did not agendize the $25,000 today. As your agenda says, only the $10,000 first offense is what's before you.
Thank you, Uruguay. Okay, thank you. Those are all my questions for now.
Does that mean, before I go to Commissioner Caloza, does that mean, Mr. Intuck, that we have a second violation that's coming?
Yes, we need to schedule that at a future.
But that's not on the agenda today.
Board meeting.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Today is the $10,000 that's referenced in the letter.
Correct.
Got it. Commissioner Caloza?
Thank you, President James. I have one quick question for Mr. Coffey before I go to Mr. Intuck. Mr. Coffey, how long has your client been doing business with the City of Los Angeles?
They've had this, this franchise, I think, was obtained in 2009.
2009. Okay, so you guys have been doing business with the city for quite some time. And, I've been working with Mr. Intuck here and his team in terms of making sure that, it's, pretty smooth in terms of what your agreement is with the city, what the requirements are, even the new changes. Is that correct?
They have been had this franchise since 2009, yes.
Okay. Mr. Intuck, can I ask you a few questions? And can you just, again, state for the record how many times we've continued this item to the benefit of our applicant here and his client, to kind of give them the benefit to comply with the requirements that other franchises have to comply with?
We did begin this process in February of 2018, 1.5 years ago, where we began sending notices of noncompliance. We did delay what was going to be an August of 2018 hearing to October 24th of 2018. We had a March 11th hearing, an April 24th hearing, and then this is our fourth hearing on this item.
Fourth hearing. So would you state for the record that you agree that we have done more than our fair share in terms of really giving ample time for the applicant to comply with these insurance requirements?
That's correct. We've not afforded this opportunity to any other operator within the City of Los Angeles.
Okay. And
would you repeat that exchange, the question and the answer?
Absolutely. I asked Mr. Intuck if he believes that we have gone above and beyond in terms of giving proper time to this applicant
Okay, go ahead.
to
Thank you. Sorry to
comply.
interrupt. Go ahead.
No problem. And is this penalty today, this $10,000 fine, is this consistent with what we would apply to any other franchise applicant had they not complied with the insurance requirements?
Correct. This is identical to what we've done for at least 5 other operators.
And
But all other operators in the city are subject to the same requirements or would have the same level of penalty on their first violation.
And so if we were not to apply this, this would be a completely new exception to the rule that we have applied previously.
Yes, this would be the first time.
Okay. And by not applying this, would we put the city at risk by any means and by not assessing this penalty?
It's hard to say. We might put our enforcement authority to the side. I mean, that's the risk has been there. Part of the reason to have bonds and insurance is to mitigate the risk. The franchise does have indemnification language in it as well. So by not issuing the violation or $10,000 penalty, it's not necessarily going to give us more risk. We do or would probably have a deficit of the time and effort that we've spent, that there would be no cost recovery for services provided.
Thank you, Mr. Intuck. I don't have any other questions.
Thank you. Let me first apologize for being late. I had other city business that I was required to attend this morning, but I am familiar with this item because, frankly, it has been continued so many times. and it's old, and I did have the documents before the hearing, even if I was the only one. But Mr. Intuck, let me go back to a couple of items, and it's either you or maybe even Dr. Campos as well. The first attempt that we made at working with this operator in this arena that eventually became a penalty, there were some procedural issues on timing that I believe Mr. Coffey himself made regarding whether or not we could even act within a certain number of days. Do you recall that?
That did come up in October of 2018
Right.
at that hearing.
And my recollection is that to get that argument off the table, so I wouldn't even have to deal with that argument for the board, we just immediately granted the continuance beyond that date.
Correct.
Okay.
To February.
And then at some level, even my recollection is that even after we brought them back after the 90 days, we still faced some element of the 90-day notice argument based on some other tweak in the process.
It was alleged in February, once the other pipeline operators did come into compliance for that day, that they were not subject to the insurance requirements, was the item of contention in February
and we needed
2019.
And then we went around on that. And now, Mr. Intuck, we're back on this, and I would note that the age of this, I'm not sure Mr. Coffey has the record for the number of continuances, because we've had some items that have been continued indeed at the request of the board regarding tree removals that might have been continued more times than this. But no, in the 6+ years that I've been in this role, we don't have an item that has lived here as long as this one has. And I feel like we're embarking upon what I'll use the term now as another game that we've been invited into, and we've accepted the invitation a number of times, and I'm done accepting the invitations. So your request today is that we implement the $10,000 penalty?
Correct.
Okay. And then recognizing what is next regarding, you've told me that we have notice out for another penalty that's not on the agenda. We'll deal with that and all the procedural aspects of that on another day. But regarding this $10,000 penalty, is there anything further that needs to occur from your office's perspective were the board to implement that penalty today? I realize I'm giving you a hypothetical, but that's the question.
No, we've done all the due diligence and met all the questions of timeliness, applicability, information, communicating with the applicant. We've gone through all the process.
And the board report on this references the various notices of violations that have occurred over pretty much in the year of 2018, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I don't have any more questions for you, Dr. Davis.
Is this their first violation, or is this?
Yes.
This is their first one? It is?
Since we took the function from the Department of Transportation,
yes.
This is a 10-year franchise agreement that started with DOT that was transferred here in 2017 when the Petroleum Administration function was transferred. So if anything, previously with Department of Transportation, I'm unaware, because they did have a previous franchise agreement with DOT before this 10-year one that we're explicitly talking about.
I will say this. I believe that there's nothing more wonderful than a great lawyer. And I believe there's nothing worse than a bad lawyer. And I will go on to say the same for an insurance agent. If I have an insurance agent that can't get me assurance that's appropriate for me, then I have the same philosophy about lawyers that I have about insurance agents. And so with that, I'll stop.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. I will make a motion that we adopt agenda item number 3, seconded by Commissioner Cabello. I anticipate that we may have some differing votes on this, so we'll do this. What's the best way to do this? Just by hands, Dr. Campos?
I can do a roll call really quick.
So it's my motion that we adopt agenda item number 3, seconded by and that's to implement the $10,000 penalty as recommended by the Petroleum Administrator, seconded by Commissioner Cabello.
Great. I will do a roll call if you can answer yay or nay. Commissioner Garcia?
Yay.
Commissioner Cabello?
Yay.
Commissioner James?
Yay.
Commissioner Davis? Commissioner Caloza?
Yay.
And Commissioner Davis, just for the record, that was a yay. Thank you.
All right, thank you. That's
Motion
all
passed.
wrong in my anticipation, but so that's unanimous. Any issue sending it forthwith? All right, we'll send it forthwith. Thank you, sir. Commissioner Cabello, have you any other items that are still outstanding? Have we cleared the desk, Dr. Campos?
Yes, you have.
All right, then we are adjourned.
Can I
Thank you,
get a
everybody.
clarification on when it's going to be due?
You can talk to Mr. Intuck. He has a question about when the penalty will be due.